It's Courtney, and I am back with another video. And today, I have a particular thing I want to talk about. I know it's amazing. I have a whole ass, category for once. That's very rare. Usually it's here and there and a bit of everything. But today, I would like to talk about the Tiger King, or Joe Exotic. Mike and I watched this when it very first came on Netflix. It wasn't in the top, I don't believe, yet. He happened to find it, so I didn't see the first episode. Um, but I watched it from the second episode all the way till the end in one day. And I wasn't going to talk about it because I didn't know a lot of people had watched it, but now I see everybody talking about it on Twitter. So I'm going to give my little opinion on the Tiger King, or as oh man, that's still filming. Okay, or as Alan liked to put it, the Tiger Queen, because that's so hilarious, right? First off, let me address that. Fuck that dude for real for that joke. Like, that was the lamest joke ever. If you are going to make a dig at somebody, at least make it something like I don't know, their character, or something of value. Like, don't go for the lowest hanging fruit. Somebody's appearance, their weight, their sexuality. Like, that is, like, you've already lost the joke whenever you have to pick on somebody for something that they really can't change. Like, I understand weight, that's kind of different. Like, some people can't help it, but some people just some people are just have a bigger frame. So like, pick on people for something that they can change if they want to, you know? Picking on somebody for their sexuality is like the lowest form of a joke, which I don't even find it funny or a joke, but he thought it was hilarious to call him the Tiger Queen. Anyways, so flat out, I was so disappointed at the ending of this. I loved the actual concept, and I loved the entire series, but I hated how it ended. And it's not a movie where they picked the ending. Of course, they can't help how it can, how the ending ended up. But I hate what happened. This was a straight up witch hunt. You cannot tell me that Joe Exotic does not have redeeming qualities, in my opinion. And you also cannot tell me that he's a terrible person through and through. Like, somebody that is a horrible person through and through would not throw a Thanksgiving dinner every year for people that don't have anybody else in the world. People that are bad through and through only do things that benefit them. Like J0e, like Carol. Those are bad people. Jeff Lowe screwed over how many people in his lifetime. I was so disappointed that he didn't get anything. No jail time, no nothing. He is just as bad. He's worse than Joe Exotic. He's worse. Joe Exotic never... Yeah, he had always, said that he wished Carol was dead. He didn't like her, blah, blah, blah. But he had never actually made a plan until Jeff came into the picture. Which brings me to the point that my husband and I came up with a hypothesis, or our conspiracy theory, allegedly, that we think Carol hired Jeff Lowe to take the zoo from Joe, because she's just that spiteful that she just didn't want him to have it, because she hated him, and she made life's work out of ruining his life. And B, to be that little bug in his ear, that little birdie in his ear, pushing him over the edge and into something that he couldn't take back. Because Jeff Lowe was a lot more involved with that plan than what they let on, or than what he let on. It was evident in the phone calls that were recorded and were played multiple times of him saying, well, we got to make it look like it was all Joe talking to Alan. Those phone calls were recorded, and just listen to those phone calls. And they are basically saying, like, read between the lines, people. They were basically saying in a recorded call that, well, we got to make sure that everyone thinks it's Joe. And the cops knew it, but it was a witch hunt. So all they cared about was getting Joe. 22 years. 22 years. He's going to die in prison. Is anything that he did that bad that he's going to die in prison? I don't think so. Did he fuck up and did he do some nasty shit? Yeah, I think he should serve a couple years in prison. I think the killing of the animals that was brought up is disgusting. I think that all roadside zoos or whatever, I think that they've all probably done that, and I think it's disgusting every single time it happens. Do I think that breeding like the cub breeding is okay? No, I don't agree with that either. But do I think that somebody like Carol is perfect, as she claims? No. It's evident to me how awful that woman is by how much excitement, happiness, glee, joy she got out of every time something bad happened to Joe. All of his misfortunes, all of his shortcomings and failures. She loved it. It was like a drug to her to take things from him. The excitement in her eyes when they would tell her something bad had happened to Joe was like so disgusting. And I think she killed her husband. I really do. I think she did kill her husband. If not just because the story and her having, the big cats to dispose of him. What about the fact that, I heard this on another video, Gray Area mentioned that the day before he was reported missing, she brought another man that had worked for her husband brought a whole truckload of all of his guns home with him from work that night. She had transferred a bunch of her husband's land into this guy's name the day before he went missing. Why? She had nothing to do with it. I think he was missing the day that she did all this. She just didn't tell him to, call it in till the next day. There was a reason she did all that. Not to mention the fact that the woman that witnessed the signing of her missing husband's, oh my God, what's it called? Like, will. The signing of his will, where he left everything to Carol. She was supposed to have witnessed him sign that paper, right? She admitted to police that she did not witness any such thing. She did not see him sign anything. A. B. That Carol was the one that drew up all this paperwork herself. And C. That all this paperwork was completed after her husband went missing. So there's no possible way that he signed that paperwork. No way at all. And she admitted this. So, hold on, guys. I hear my kid yelling already. Just a second. Okay, also, back to what I was saying. So, Carol is an asshole. So, Carol claims to only care about the animals and what's best for the animals, and whatever is best for their well-being is what she wants. First off, she's a motherfucking liar, because Carol had a roadside zoo as well. Back in the day. Or not back in the day, but just a couple years back. She had a bed and breakfast petting zoo, didn't you, Carol? Yeah, you did. So, she was doing the same exact thing, breeding animals, kitten holding, or, cub holding, cub selling. She was doing the same exact things that Joe Exotic, Doc, all of those people, Jeff Lowe, all of them were doing. She's doing the same shit. But she hides behind activism. But she is exploiting her animals just as much. She's exploiting people as well. The fact in the video or in the documentary of how she talks about how she doesn't give a shit about her volunteers, that they don't pay anybody because people will volunteer, that they don't have to pay anybody because people will volunteer to scoop shit and feed the animals and even veterinarian care just so they can spend time with big cats. That's exploitation. You're exploiting people to be able to spend time with the cats, and you're exploiting the cats to get free work out of people. And she said right there that she has so many volunteers that she doesn't even know their name until they've been there for 5 years at least. Because I know up to like the third, there's like different colors to show what type of volunteer you are. And I think it's a green shirt that's 5 years plus. And she said that she doesn't even know their names until they have a green shirt. She doesn't even care to know their names until they have a green shirt because they haven't done, put in enough work for her to care who they are. But they're running her park and taking care of her animals every day. She can't even care enough to know their names. Like, I would love to volunteer at Hobatters, wildlife park, and, not too far from me. I would love to do that. And I would volunteer for free. But I would also expect them to at least know my name. Like, fuck. These people are working for you and you can't even be bothered to know their names. They're giving you free labor and you literally said, I don't give a shit about them until they've been here for 5 years. Okay. She's exploiting animals and people. Okay. She was mad she couldn't get her dollhouse out. So yeah. So my original point was, though, she says she cares only about the animals and this and that, but where did the animals benefit in the millions of dollars that you spent to ruin Joe's life? Like, that was your life's work, was making sure that he was ruined. She was obsessed with him. She told him she was going to kill him on multiple occasions. He put out a restraining order on her. Where did the cats benefit in the millions of dollars that you spent? First off, you could have built bigger enclosures for all your animals with $1 million. You could have afforded to pay some of those volunteers with millions of dollars. Those people said that they gave up their Christmases, their Thanksgivings to come and feed your animals. And you said you didn't give a shit about them, essentially. She didn't say it in those words, but the way that she was saying, oh, I don't even know their names, was just like, oh my God, rude, psycho. She's nuts. She could pay some of her employees, or not even employees, volunteers, considering in 2018, she brought in $32 million. $32 million. But she can't afford to pay her green shirts, who have spent more than 5 years every day scooping shit and carrying not rotten meat, but dead meat around to feed the animals, and doing all the unglamorous, non-glamorous things. She wants to talk about how awful cub breeding is and cub petting and all this other stuff, but her animals were in magazines. When she was doing the interviews, the animals were in tiny little cages right behind her as she was speaking. And there was a male lion at one point. He couldn't even stand up. The cage was like this wide. and probably about 2 or 3 feet tall. He was down like this. He couldn't even stand up in the cage. But she wanted to talk about Joe's enclosures and shit, and like, but she is no better. Like, none of these people are any better than him. They're worse than him, honestly. You know, they're all snakes. He's the only one that wasn't trying to fuck them the whole time. They were all trying to fuck him. They couldn't get in line fast enough to screw the dude over. Like I said, he's not perfect. But all of their shit was forgotten for the sake of putting a man away that I don't believe deserved 22 years in prison. He doesn't deserve to die in prison. Because honestly, we've all said things like, you know, I wish that bitch was dead, or, you know, wouldn't hurt my feelings if this person died, or I could kill that person. When you know, everybody said shit when they were upset and in the heat of the moment that they didn't mean. And I don't know if I said this already, but like I said, my husband and I kind of hypothesized that Jeff Lowe was paid to go into that zoo and push him over the edge and put that idea in his head, because he was very involved. And it just seems awfully funny how everything was recorded for the cops and how everything just matched so perfectly that everybody else was doing all this fucked up shit, but only Joe came to justice. All these other injustices were done. But as long as Joe spends 22 years, right? It's messed up, man. And Rob